Yo, 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 welcome back to the Furrii Your Lifestyle Podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong, I am your host, and I'm super thrilled to be back here again and to introduce you to our guests for this week, and that is Drew and Sarah, the brains and brilliance behind the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. It's super exciting to be able to have another podcast host, or in this case, podcast hosts, here on the channel, and I love Drew and Sarah so much. Everything that they're doing right now is just top notch. You got to go check them out. They have the podcast, they're in the Reselling Game, they're doing some other little side hustles here and there, but just the way they present themselves and bring to life conversation is what intrigues me the most. And they bring such enjoyment and entertainment within their own podcast. They have a YouTube channel. They're doing so many cool things. And that's why I was just happy to have them on the channel, to be able to have some banter and hear all about them. And that's what we touch on in this episode. We learn about them, who they are, their journey to building out the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. We also touch on a few other things, especially around the hustle world. But most of all, it's just really sitting down on a couch having a great conversation. So however you like to listen, get cozy, get comfortable, cup of tea, cup of coffee, however it is. We are on YouTube for the video experience, and you want to see the video experience for this one. Otherwise, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those great places. So let's get into it. Welcome, Drew and Sarah, to the Furrii Your Lifestyle podcast. It is so exciting to have you guys here. How are you doing today?
Very, very good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us on.
Very excited to be here. You were actually a guest, our first guest on our podcast. So we're honored to return the favor and be a guest on yours.
That's it. Yeah. The Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast, which is, I guess it's funny because I think you're known for so many different things. You're known for the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast. You're known as It's Drew and Sarah. And then you've got the final season thrifts as well, which you've got all areas covered, starting to dominate and take over Instagram and YouTube and all places. It's exciting, right? And I think that's what I love about you guys so much. And I mean, we've known each other for, must be probably a good, probably just shy of a year now, I reckon, when we first discovered it. Well, I discovered you guys jumping into the reselling community, but you know, hearing and seeing and following your journeys across all areas has been very exciting for me, which is exactly why I wanted you to have on the podcast, because you guys are hustling, you're doing so many cool things. And I think there's a great story here about, you know, how you guys have furthered your lifestyle and all that jazz, but I don't want to sell it. So let's hear about you guys, right? Because you guys are like a dream team couple working together in all aspects, doing lots of different things. But I mean, who are you guys? What are you all about? And I know this will take a little bit to dive through because it's a dynamic duo situation here. But yeah, let us know who you guys are.
Do you want to do the intro, or do you want me to?
No, I can kick it off.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm Sarah. I'm 33 years old.
I think so.
Yeah, I think I'm 33.
Are you sure?
Count once you hit the 30. I've been working full time since I was probably about like 25, and I've had sort of the same job since I was 17. So I've sort of worked my way up that way.
Oh, nice.
I dabbled in uni for 2.5 years, and I didn't really enjoy that. Sort of left that area and sort of focused on my career. Then it was probably like
5 years ago.
Thank you. Five years ago, I met this guy. And then, yeah, my life changed in a whole different direction. Like this guy's motivation and he's, I don't know, just like continuous wanting to move forward has just helped me in my own life so much more as well. Like he just pushes me and it's amazing. And
You're
yeah,
crying the first 3 minutes of the
I was going to
episode.
say, like, he's going to start getting blushy or red. And,
yeah. And like, not like my life was dull or anything before that, but it's just, you know, when you meet that certain person that like inspires you to be more than who you are, like your life changes. And it's been like you have your ups and downs and everything, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my name's Drew, and I'm also, I believe, 33.
Yeah.
I've been like doing just in and out of jobs since high school, really. To be honest, that sort of drive and motivation that I have, and that you recognize in me, I haven't had all my life for sure. Yeah. Probably 8 or 9 years ago, I started uni just because I was in a rut in life, wanted to pursue different things and just try and do things my own way, I guess. And also started from there. I started studying a biology degree and sort of fell out of love with that, and then turned to nutrition because I was always sort of interested in nutrition and stuff. And during the course of the nutrition degree, I was sort of had the idea of running my own business and just being my own boss. Yeah, that was sort of the goal from then. And since then, it's always been something I've strived towards. I'm not necessarily doing nutrition stuff now. I sort of enjoy learning about it and cooking and stuff, but I'm not going to pursue it in a business sense.
Yeah.
But all the sort of motivational stuff and, further your lifestyle sort of mental activity. Does that make sense?
Mental practice.
Mental practice all
Yeah.
sort of started from uni. And then right at the end of my honors degree, I met Sarah. We moved in together. I started doing some nutrition stuff, but just wasn't really feeling it.
Yeah.
And then we sort of found reselling, and it's been a game changer ever since. We've changed the way we do business and finance and manage our money, and everything's changed since reselling, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a huge part in this episode. But that's sort of how we connected 5 years ago at a Star Trek movie, and now we're resellers.
Oh, wow, at a Star Trek movie. There you go.
That was our first date.
Yeah. Our first date was going to see a Star Trek movie, but like we found out that we're both like sci-fi fans. I know, both into the same music. Like it was a lot in common, and went from there.
Just 1, 2, 3, skip a few, 99, 100, and it's all just, happy days. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, the first thing I remember him saying, and it's like, it's my favorite. He was like, "I like your head." And I was like, "Thank you. I'm quite attached to it." And then that was the first part.
That's the best pickup line I had.
Well, mate, I guess it could have gone, it was a 50-50, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Well done. No, look, it's really good. And like, I feel like I know, we haven't met, right? But we've chatted so many times, but I feel like I know you guys so much because we're always talking from a, reselling community perspective. Then we're always chatting around just other things. And then I'm listening to your podcasts, and, I've learned so much about you guys, but I always love listening to you guys because this different dynamic that you guys bring in, the different interests, but also how you both kind of just flow and finish each other's sentences, which is really, really good. It's really, really cool. And I love hearing that story that you guys have been able to connect and, you bounce off each other to help each other grow, because I think if anything in this, especially today's society, it's everyone's pursuing something, but it's always, we're trying to be so competitive, and doing it alone can be quite hard, right? Like, trying to, whether it's finding your groove, your passion, or a hustle, having someone there along the side to spur you on or to keep you honest, I think it's an unfair advantage for some, I would say, but it's a great asset to have. So kudos to both of you.
Thank you.
Well, we can step on each other's toes every now and then, but we, just give ourselves a half an hour and we find a flow.
Sometimes an hour.
Yeah, sometimes an hour, but I think it's because we've done like the reselling thing for ages, and we tend to like sell the same type of stuff. We find that flow in helping each other that out, and we've sort of worked out, what he's good at, what I'm good at, and then try to find that middle ground.
We actually worked together at your business when I was just finished uni. Obviously, I needed like some sort of job to bridge the gap, and we're working together and driving to work together every day. So we had a very close business, I guess, connection from the get-go. It's definitely a lot harder being at home and doing it as opposed to working for someone else, but that's where we sort of seen that it is a doable thing for us.
And it was a good year, I would say, or maybe like 6 months. So it wasn't just like we did it for like traveled to work together and stuff for a month. It was like a good year that we're in this space together continuously, and we were fine, and we're like, we can do this.
There wasn't any stepping on toes then, but now there's a bit more.
But it's a different dynamic, right? Because you're working together and you're both probably got different goals and aspirations, but then you've got combined goals and aspirations at the same time. And it sounds like, Drew, you've always kind of had that bit more of a hustle and drive before yourself, Sarah, and then you've kind of taken that upon yourself, as well as you've been inspired by him and taken that onto your shoulders as well. So I feel like that dynamic in itself, it speaks volumes in all that you guys are doing, because you're both very motivated. But I think when you guys first met and that was kind of coming to life, I'm curious to know, Sarah. So, because I'm very motivated myself, and I'm always trying to push to do this with Carla, and sometimes she doesn't want to, which is fine. But I can only imagine that if he's trying to be like 2 steps ahead and you're still trying to catch up, was that a bit of a challenge to get to, or were you kind of just like, no, let's just go all in, and you just jumped in and followed whatever he was doing?
It's a bit of both. Like every now and then I still struggle to try and keep up, because I'm a very like go with the flow, very chill sort of type of person, where he's very like, let's get all this done, and I'm happy to be that. But sometimes I can be not in a bad way, but I'm just too chill every now and then to like get the hustle on. So it's more of a like knowing when like I can switch that on, and knowing when I need to like be step back and just be a little bit more calm and everything. And we tend to balance each other out that way.
How was it initially when I first started filling up that 1-bedroom apartment wardrobe?
With all the stock.
Yeah. What was it like?
Well, I think that's when you started to like build it up in like cardboard boxes. And then I was like, we need something better, because I'm a very organized person. I'm a very clean person as well. So as soon as it started to go in tubs, that was fine. But then when it filled up that little wardrobe and was like on the ground, I was like, we probably should move in the next couple of months just for more space. But it was fine because it was tubs. It was clean in a way, but just that initial sort of like dragging me along for the ride, like you sort of felt bad in the beginning. And I was like, it was fine. Like I liked thrifting, like I enjoyed that whole process. And then I sort of enjoy the business side a lot more as well, because like it helps me grow as a person.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I laugh about it because I've had Carla's come into my world with me with reselling, and I'm laughing so much because she's like, oh, you should make this a bit cleaner, or she's keeping me honest, or I guess complimenting my own processes. It sounds like Drew had his mission. He's like, this is what I want to do, make some dollars, whatever. But you've kind of come like, okay, that's fine, but this isn't working, or you need to change this, or if you make it this way, it'll make it a bit smoother. So together it makes you guys a bit more powerful together, which I think that comes out in your videos and in your content that you guys create of, spurring along each other and helping each other. And it's like, oh no, do it this way or do it that way, which is great. It makes it honest and it's truth for people to understand that if you are getting into something, working with your partner or whatnot, it's not all, sunshine and rainbows, I would imagine, which I already know this for myself, but it's great to see that honesty and truth, because it's those things, those tougher decisions, or that kind of back and forth, which is going to enable you guys to grow a bit better and work more efficiently anyway. So I think that's really, really good. And then for you, Drew, so on the flip side, I guess, you being always go, 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 and you said you didn't always have that, but maybe after you got out of, after studying and you started to get that drive a bit more, how was it with having, then someone else, in this case, Sarah, come on board and, not just in the business world, but being obviously a partner and you trying to hustle towards something? Did you struggle with that, or was it something which kind of helped you kind of slow down, smell the roses at the same time?
I'm not going to lie, it's definitely a huge struggle for me. Pretty much the year prior, like to start in reselling, I was trying to build up my nutrition business. I had a nutrition podcast and just trying to develop the business website, services, all that sort of thing. And that was a very solo endeavor. She had no part in it at all. So I felt my interest and passion from nutrition and stuff sliding, and then the relationship getting more distant than I would like. And then I seen an opportunity to make some money doing other things, in this case, reselling. And that was an opportunity to bring Sarah in to the fold and help like build the business and grow the business and just understand simple business practices. But it was definitely a struggle. Like you said, I felt guilty dragging you along because I didn't know if you were interested, or you were like, what the hell is this guy bringing all these books home for? But yeah, it was definitely a struggle bringing someone else in. And this whole journey, we haven't had a mentor. There's no one teaching us the way how to do anything. Everything is fly by the seat of your pants, watch some YouTube videos, get a few bits of inspiration and run from there. So to have someone to bounce ideas off, over time I understood like this is a huge benefit having her here. It shouldn't be as like stressful. I shouldn't be worried about it at all. But initially I was hesitant to bring her in, but ever since then the relationship's grown stronger. Like you said, we still step on toes from time to time, but definitely brought us closer. And if I was continuing the nutrition stuff solo, I don't know how much fun we'd be having now, like what the relationship would be like. It's definitely brought us closer, and made us better communicators, just better partners overall, for sure.
No, definitely. And like when you were doing the nutrition, like I remember you felt so bad for not being able to spend time with me, and like I was fine with that, mainly because I got to eat all the food that you got to that you made for it. But and then when you started to include me, and then this whole just opened up all these doors into like just stuff that I never even thought about. Like I just didn't even think about money that way. I didn't think about business that way. But it was, I saw that you felt really bad, but I appreciate you including me, and it's been a ride.
I mean, you could have always had you as an assistant for the nutrition business, but
I could,
yeah, personally, I just wasn't feeling. I can see myself or us doing something with that in the future, but in terms of a full-time nutritionist doing consultations, I couldn't see myself really doing that. And then the sort of two worlds coincided where reselling was right there in the palm of our hands.
Yeah.
And the nutrition stuff was sort of fading away. So yeah, it was just a blessing in disguise now that we look back on it for sure.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I think we kind of touched on already, you know, jumping into those, you know, getting uncomfortable, whether it's in the relationship or, you know, you having to do something a bit differently, Drew, or you having to do something different, Sarah, you know, all those things complement each other and helps you grow in the longer term anyway. And I know you guys, you mentioned, you know, it's helped you with your finances, it helped you with budgeting, it's helping with just the way you guys have gone and approached things, which is really good because now that you're working together, there's a bit more of a common goal rather than you both trying to, you know, go out on forks, which is 100% fine because there's plenty of couples that do that and they have their own, you know, different enterprises completely separated. But I think by bringing those two together and that glue, it's kind of then probably helped out what has made, which is what you guys are doing now, is your Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast, which I'm very curious to know because, you know, to go up to someone and say, hey, let's start a podcast, in this case, your partner, that can be quite scary as well, because there's all of a sudden, is that intent from one or did it come from both of you? So I'm very, very curious to know, and I'm sure the audience listening is very keen to understand. So how did that come to life? You know, Drew, were you kind of just, you know, say, hey, Sarah, we're starting a podcast and I need you to do it with me? Or was it kind of like more of throwing things on the whiteboard of like, we need to do something bigger and better together?
I gotta say, like Chris's questions are like so precise and like perfect for us.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'll start us off. I've done like a bunch of podcasts before.
Yeah.
So I did one in uni with some mates. We did probably 5 or 6 of them, just random ones. I think I did the nutrition one, which was like moderately successful. I got to like 16, 17 episodes. But we'd done a previous one before, probably a year into the relationship.
Yeah.
So this is like after I'd finished uni, but we were working full time, but I was still like working on nutrition stuff. There was like a year sort of limbo where we started a Star Trek podcast. And I can't recall the conversation, but I can't foresee it, or I can't see it being you starting the conversation. It was definitely would have been me being like, let's do a podcast about Star Trek.
Well, considering you're the one who actually introduced me to podcasts in general, like I heard of podcasts and like I knew like audiobooks, that kind of thing, but I just never like listened to them because I was still very much like a physical book person. Now I'm very ebooks. I try not to like have a lot of clutter and everything. But I had no idea. And he's like, listen to Serial. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a one-way, like a one person sort of motivated to do it, trying to bring someone on board.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had fun with that for sure, but it was never really like a long-term project. Can we like, how many Star Trek podcasts do you want to talk about?
It was like 2 karaoke style microphones sitting on our bed, hooked up to like
it's called Bold Encounters. We might even do we still pay for hosting, or
I don't know. I don't even know if we still have access to the email.
That's what I was going to ask, is like, can people go listen to this if they wanted to right now?
Yeah, so you can listen to my nutrition one called Plant Sourced Podcast, and then Bold Encounters is be around somewhere. Otherwise, we'll re-upload them or something.
Wow.
But then moving into Look Mum, I'm Hustling, we'd been doing the YouTube channel for probably 2 years at that point. And then it was just a natural evolution for us. We had done one in the past. We wanted to diversify the content we make. There's only so much you can do in a sort of video vlog format. You can't really sit down and have long conversations about random things. You want to network with newer people and, you know, grow and learn different things from different people. So we saw that. I think the current one was more of a combined effort of like, this is what we want to do with it. This is the direction we want to go.
Yeah. Also, because it's not a heavy edit either. Like it's also like a time saver.
Yeah.
So it would be like something extra that we can pop out that won't take a lot of time out of our day. So we can actually fit it in and create something more.
Yeah. Would you ever just started a podcast on your own though? That's like a different question.
Probably not. Like I said, Drew's the one that sort of like pushes me to, you know, get out of my comfort zone, because I would, like, I'm not as shy as I used to be, but I was a very like shy, reserved, quiet, type of person. And then, doing something like that was very daunting. But yeah, Drew's always coming up with the great ideas.
I don't know about that.
No pressure, Drew. No pressure. Well, she's just waiting for the $1 million idea, mate. Like,
I'm trying.
Number one cheerleader.
No, that's really cool, right? And yeah, I did know that you guys have had different podcasts in the past, but it's always great to hear the journey of how that evolves, right? Because it's similar for the lifestyle podcast. It's evolved from a brand around apparel, and now we're doing obviously the podcast. So it's great to hear that. Now, so the name Look Mum, I'm Hustling. Now I know that has come from previously before being a podcast, but why Look Mum, I'm Hustling? Like, where does that come from, or what kind of inspired that to be the name?
So before we started the YouTube channel, which, like you said, was originally called Look Mum, I'm Hustling, we were watching a bunch of resellers at the time. They're probably the most prominent in Australia with two Aussie thrifters.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to show our journey. We'd never really done a serious money hustle, or a hustle trying to make money.
Yeah.
Like seriously before. So we thought we'd document it and just film our thrifting journeys. And I guess we needed a name prior to that. And I think we had a bunch of random ones. So obviously the such and such flipper or reseller, or they're all the common sort of names. Hustle you hear from time to time. I don't know where it came from. Like
I feel like I came up with the Look Mum because I was like the Look Who's Talking.
Yeah, I thought it was like a play on like Look Mum No Hands, like riding a bike type thing.
That's where it came from. Look Mum No Hands, like look what we're doing.
We put a poll on Instagram at the time, and that was by far the most popular name. And then we named the YouTube channel that, and then the start of last year we sort of renamed it and split the Look Mum name because it's such a good name we couldn't sacrifice it to a podcast. And I think it's a more fitting name for a podcast. I think so. A bit more catchy for sure.
Yeah. No, I love it, and I think because it doesn't actually, it doesn't niche it down into one particular thing. And I think that's what's so cool, which is very obvious, and it speaks for itself in your actual podcast, because it's not just about resale. It's about everything hustling, and it's about other people hustling. And that's what I love about it, is because you never know what you're going to get each episode, which is why it's always cool to hear a new story and just the chatting. Okay, so that makes sense, right? And from that, I think the next thing that I wanted to then understand, and you've kind of already touched on, why a podcast and all that jazz, but is there a much bigger plan for the podcast, right? I think there's a lot of branding around it. If anyone hasn't gone and seen, the Look Mum, I'm Hustling logo, it's you two. It's really cool art. But I think there's something more there, because when you think about it, Look Mum, I'm Hustling, it starts to become a bit more of a, wouldn't say, well, it is. It's almost like a tagline, right? Is there, is there some intent or some long-term goals to take it beyond podcasting, or is that kind of just where you want to kind of try and keep it?
Would love, like, we're always thinking about bigger and better things. So I'd love to think of it on a bigger scale. Obviously more frequent episodes, potentially like at some point, like a live one would be really cool. Obviously not during these times, but like you said, there is a sort of tagline to it. It's not just a name of a show. It's sort of like a philosophy as well, which is kind of something we never intended on, but it's just played out like that. Like, Look Mum, I'm Hustling, sort of like, look at me, I'm out here, I'm trying, I'm doing my best, is sort of the whole philosophy around it. But yeah, there's definitely brandability. I think that's a word. Brandability around it. But we don't really know. We just want to get it to a weekly release at this point, which is on its way, and then just some basic sort of ad sponsorship just to cover the basic bills would be happy with. And then from there, who knows? We've thought about different.
Well, like very similar to the millennial style. So how it's like My Millennial Property, My Millennial Finance, that kind of thing. Like, it has the potential to be something like that. Obviously not those particular areas, but just the name can be attached to. There's a
potential for it to grow into almost like a podcast. What are they called? Like media company. Like a Gimlet type of thing, where there's multiple shows underneath the umbrella. So we're thinking about doing a crypto one called Look Mum, I'm Hodling.
That's right.
Hodling their crypto. But they're just random ideas now, not anything set in stone. Right now, the focus is getting it to a weekly. And then I think next year is when we'll sort of push to that next level, get bigger and better guests, try and get some nice sort of sponsorships or whatever may come about. But maybe in 5 years, we can do a live show somewhere.
Somewhere with a bit of an audience. That'll be exciting.
Super exciting. I mean, you've heard it all here first, folks, but when I listen to that, the first thing that comes to mind is like, like Jim's mowing, and then you've got like Jim's pet washing, or Jim's this, Jim's that. that's how I actually see your brand, because it's exactly that. You can kind of just apply it to anything, or you can put a spin on it. And that's why I love the name so much, is because it doesn't niche it down, it doesn't tie you down, and you can play it and spin it any way you want, which I think, maybe you hadn't necessarily known that then, maybe you just kind of wanted to have a bit loose, but I think now that gives you guys a bit of a powerful asset to be able to play on down the line as you discover and figure out how far you want to go. But I love that, it's, as long as you keep the consistency, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And that's a big reason why we did the rebranding of the YouTube channel, is because we've seen there is a cap on how much stuff we can do video wise with Look Mum I'm Hustling. There's only so much you can show, whereas if we rename it to It's Drew and Sarah, we have more personal stuff we can show on there: cooking, traveling, vlogging, thrifting, all that sort of stuff. You can't talk about, we just did an episode about robots, like when are we going to get a chance to talk about robots on our YouTube channel? So we've seen that vision of, there's a huge range of topics we can cover with that name. So it was, the best idea was to turn it into a podcast, way more fitting name for it. And keeps it way more broad for the future. And likewise with the It's Drew and Sarah name, it keeps the YouTube broad as well in the future. So
100%. And I think that's beautiful in that sense, because that separation can always be a bit of a challenge. And at the same time, the challenge of finding new content, right? And I know in your last episode around the robots, you guys did mention that, finding new topics and things to talk about it's not as easy as people might think, which, if people don't realize, it's hard finding guests, it's hard finding content, and, keeping it fresh and organic. So I got to ask, so do you guys have a bit of a process that you go through to bring on these topics? Or is it kind of like you guys have just been sitting around and something happens and you're like, oh, we should make that? Or is it kind of like last minute kind of thing and you're doing a bit more off the cuff?
I think the first 10, if you listen to the first 10, they're all pretty reselling, hustler related. So we just wanted to bank out 10 ideas: how to save money, how to recycle, how to just basic sort of concepts. And now that they're all out of the way, we can't really redo those ones too frequently and just say the same talking points. And now it's gotten to a point where we try and find some sort of a current affair topic we can talk about, or a documentary, and take that topic from that world, and then just spend a couple of hours each doing individual research with a topic on mind, and maybe 5 or 6 dot points on a whiteboard just to keep us on track. And then we'll pretty much go from there. That's sort of the angle we're going with the current episodes and in the future. But I feel like we're just winging it at this point, right?
Yeah, it's an ever evolving process. So we've done the planning out at this stage, because we're not experiencing a whole bunch in the real world. We're finding it a bit harder to find topics to talk about. So usually what we have done in the past is probably have like 3 sort of like rough ideas of things that we might want to talk about, and then just pick one per week. I think when we'll be able to go out and about, we'll be able to have a little bit more planning wise, but at the moment it's just like, oh, I saw this cool article, do you want to maybe talk about it in the podcast?
The cool thing is we're getting new things to talk about every week. And in terms of building the brand, having new hashtags and new keywords every week for new current topics that are already trending, that's the play we're trying to go down.
That's a good way to do it. Do you find that you guys are having topical conversations outside of the podcast, and then you realize, oh, we should have done this for a podcast?
A little bit. Most of the conversations we have at home are just life ones, really, just eBay business and stuff anyway. We don't really spend too much time talking about movies and stuff until we're like, okay, this is going to be about robots. What do you want to talk about? Like, let's do some individual research. But there's not too much, but there have been a few times from like, let's save this.
We've said, all right, I was like, let's just only brush over this now, but let's save it for the episode. It hasn't happened that many times, but I could definitely see that happening a little bit more in the future. But at home it's usually personal life stuff we tend to talk about, like Archie, whatever. Which makes sense. But I was super curious, because when you guys do it, like, that's why I love it, because it's fresh, it sounds organic, it sounds like it's, not like you're following some script or anything, which is obviously what you want. So, but then again, your conversation is really good because you both ask really good questions to each other, or kind of like, it looks a bit more spontaneous. So it's a bit of both. And I think you've pulled that together really, really well, even if you hadn't realized that was your intent or not. So it's great. I love it so much.
Thanks, man. Yeah, because the YouTube videos are pretty strict. You can't waffle on and too much. You're trying to be to the point a lot of the time. So the YouTube gives us a chance to just be silly with it, ask silly questions to one another, and just play off random ideas.
And it lets us have like that long form conversation when we might not be able to, throughout the day or in the YouTube videos, because we can't really have those super long form ones. So it's always interesting where like if it's a random topic where both of our mind flows, like every now and then I get surprised and be like,
It's a bit weirder than I already thought. No worries.
But do you find your audience is more for the like listening, like Apple or Spotify, or is YouTube starting? Because I know you're doing a lot of the short form content as well, like you're doing little shorts and little snippets and whatnot. Do you find that you are getting a traction on YouTube, or people are enjoying it on YouTube, or do you find that the dynamic is better on audio?
It's definitely shifting from audio to video. Like we're at episode, I think 18 episodes in, and the views, like looking at the views from audio to video, you can see it moving the other way.
Wow, interesting.
So I can see the videos doing better. That's why we focus a lot on the video side of things, trying to create more shorts now to get interest. Because when you release a podcast, like you're aware, you can have an Instagram, you can put a post and a small sound snippet up, but it's hard to drive new listeners in. And I think now that with TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts being probably one of the most consumed sources of content at the moment, if you can make a snappy little reel, you're going to get more potential viewers from that, as opposed to just a square image with some audio playing. So I think the video aspect of podcast is going to be huge in the future. But I feel like the video versions are always going to get better views than the audio at this rate.
Yeah.
And we're happy making the video stuff, as you guys can tell.
The quality is great, and I think that's why, because I've seen you've done more. You're doing more and more of it, right? I know when you first started, it was a bit slow getting the traction, but I've noticed probably in the last 2 months, so probably the last 4 or 5 episodes, you've probably doubled down on that short form content, which is really good. It speaks volumes. For me, I like listening because I'm running, but when I do see those little shorts, they're a lot of fun. It's kind of out of context, but then it's kind of relevant at the same time. Like people are, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. So it intrigues people to dive in. I've listened to podcasts for ages, and usually you can, if you're going to do a promo, you can just do a little square with like a still image and some audio playing in the background. Just having moving visual elements is what people want to see on the internet now. So like it just makes sense to cut them up like that. But you're right. We're definitely doubling down, spending probably 3 to 4 times the amount of time on the edit just to get the shorts and the promo stuff out. Wow.
But it's more fun now because the conversations are more fluid, so we can be more silly, which means the reels are more silly, so they're a bit more clickable as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was like one of the things that you sort of said to me when we started to like come to the idea of like wanting to do a lot more shorts and things like that for the podcast. It'd be like when you're on YouTube watching like podcast channels, like what's something that drags you across is like when I see those funny clips, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to go check out this video. And that's sort of like the idea behind it is just from personal experience of like listening to or watching video podcasts. It's just like you see those small clips and like, oh, that's funny.
It's so like a little taster at Woolworths. Like, I just want a little taste. I don't want the whole thing. Just give me a little taste on the toothpick, and if I like it, I'll come back for more. That's how I view it.
No, that's perfect. It's a great way to summarize it, and it's definitely something I've struggled to, is getting the short form. I haven't got any of the short form stuff out. So kudos to you. But I want to clarify. So Drew, are you the only one putting this together, or Sarah, are you helping with the edits as well?
So I cannot edit. It's probably something that I should learn, just in case if knock on wood, Drew, something happens.
If something happens, you're going to have to worry about the edit. You have to worry about doing a statement video and a eulogy video for me.
But yeah, Drew's the very talented one that does a lot of the editing. I will help with a lot of the setting things up, or prepping for the episode, whether it's getting down the points, like doing a little bit more of the research.
We just try to delegate the tasks we're better at. I'm not expecting her to learn Premiere Pro and how to cut and export an episode, but if I can get her to like listen back and get me a couple of good timestamps, so I can go, I don't have to go and search for them myself. It just saves me half an hour of scrolling the timeline. Just little things like that, like
the title, the description, the tags, the keywords. Like I'll have all that ready for him.
So as soon as it's exported, I just go onto the page, copy paste. It's all the stuff, all the boring stuff for me is done. But that's sort of how we distribute the workflow, and same with the YouTube videos as well.
Yeah, so I'll get all that
good.
ready while he edits. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's great to be able to leverage each other's, whether it's strengths or weaknesses or whatnot, and because then you're going to be moving quicker rather than trying to, I can't do this, but trying to do it because it might actually make it slower and whatnot. So that's really cool. I was really curious about it. And maybe, referencing your recent podcast for the viewers, just to give them a spoiler of the robots, is maybe that's what you need. You need a robot that's going to do all your editing for both of you. And then it's happy days.
Yeah, well, that's one of the main reasons why I took up like doing the title and all that kind of stuff, because Drew actually used to do it all himself, and it was just taking up too much time. Like, you couldn't, get all the listings done in one day and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
plus, there's only so many times you want to hear your voice. And if I'm
that's the main
scrolling through the
reason as well.
timeline trying to find a
Yeah.
clip, then no.
Yeah,
Robot would be nice. Even if a robot, just a coffee robot, decided to make coffees would be nice.
Yeah, it's just coming in with a tray, be like, your coffee.
Yeah, perfect.
I love it. All right, so we've talked about the Look Mum, I'm Hustling podcast, right? And obviously hustling being a big part of that, right? So you mentioned that originally you were mainly focusing on the reselling in that conversation on the podcast, obviously because your reselling is your big hustle that you're doing. So let's touch on that quickly. So how long have you guys been reselling for? And I guess how did that kind of come to life? Because I know, Drew, you kind of started to dabble in it first, and then Sarah, you've then you got intrigued by it. But yeah, how did that come to life, and what does that look like now?
So reselling, I feel like it's probably just the catalyst of the whole Gary Vee phenomenon 5-6 years ago, when he was first making a big wave on the scene. He transferred from his sort of wine content to his business social media stuff, and he's always talking about flipping. And then at one point, I just discovered you could scan barcodes in eBay, and then went to the local thrift store and just scanning 100 books. And
you were so excited to be like, do you know you can scan the barcode and upload straight into eBay? And I was like, what?
Yeah, I feel like we went a couple of times and scanned heaps of stuff and never got anything. I actually went before we even started. I remember Pete and I were
you guys were doing it together.
First. That's right.
I wasn't a part of it. It was just you and Pete trying to do like a little hustle together.
So if you go back and watch our very first episode, our good friend Pete was like our video man at the time.
He did a couple for us.
Him and I were sort of doing it together. Forgot about this completely. We're reselling together initially, and bought a bunch of stuff to sell, and then we sort of never really pursued it, and then I just did it myself a couple of months later. Just took it by the horns and went a bit further.
Yeah, you kept it, and then he sort of like dropped off a bit. Like, you started to just get like free books. You get like a plush here and there. Clothing wasn't really in the
I want to say this was probably 9 to 12 months before we started watching like other content. This was
right. Okay.
This was just purely, I don't know how, we were just scanning stuff.
I think we needed to save extra because we were traveling or needed to pay something. I think we just needed some extra money on the side, and you were like, I can do this for that too.
But then the most notable sort of inflection point where we're like, oh, we're resellers now, is when we started getting a bunch of free books, and just listing those. We had a couple of huge listing days.
Yep.
And then we started selling books, made a bit of income.
Yeah.
Had no idea how to track the money or the fees at the time, and sort of just went from there. And then it was a slow progression over the next 12 months to finding that we liked clothing more. It took us a while.
Yeah, it did.
And now we're predominantly clothing resellers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all started from just random. I feel like, Gary Vee was probably the catalyst, as many people in this sort of community are aware of.
Yeah. And then Rally Roots as well, because they were super, super popular on YouTube at the time. I think that was right before the Wall Street article and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's always, I love hearing the stories about, how people got into thrifting or reselling, and because a lot of the time it does come from whether seeing someone else doing it or you've been influenced or inspired, in this case, Gary Vee. If people haven't checked out Gary Vee's little episodes of Trash Talk where he goes to garage sales, like it's the coolest thing. Right. And I remember rewatching that. I think it was probably the start of last year, or I don't know. He only did about 5 episodes, but you just get the bug. It gets you hyped up and you're like, oh, I want to go out and find something, right? Because it just shows how easy it is. And I actually never realized about the book situation for yourself, because I know now you're doing whatever you can do, but you guys were doing so much of the shirts that you had said, oh, we don't really dabble in these other things. And you had to go back to learning how to do some of these other items because you guys have been doing shirts for so long. So I think that's important though, going through finding what works for yourself or as a team in terms of items and categories, because otherwise it can get quite overwhelming. But I'm curious to know, so at what point, and it can be short and sharp, of how did you even then realize, well, shirts is what you want to do? Because that you said it took a while to do it, but that at what point did you realize and then kind of just go cold turkey and kind of shut off the other stuff?
I think we got a couple of crazy finds. Remember at the start of last year, we got that crazy Mambo shirt. We got that vintage Backstreet Boys shirt.
Yes.
There was a couple of really, because we didn't really know much about vintage stuff. We were just picking up cool graphic shirts or branded jeans or just stuff that we knew about.
And had no idea about the vintage community, like the t-shirt community.
I think, there's all this stuff's on video, really. Like we found a Mambo shirt, and I think that was the catalyst of, this is a $300 item as opposed to the $50 shirts we've been selling this whole time. And that was it for sure. A couple of good finds, and then we dove right into vintage t-shirts last year when the first sort of wave of lockdowns happened. A lot of the vintage t-shirt scene on Instagram, a lot of the US sellers were doing a lot of live streams and stuff. So I spent a lot of time watching that, learning different brands and tags, and it sort of started from there. I would say it was probably the start of last year. Found that good shirt, and then just the wave of the way the t-shirt collectors and sellers were moving last year, sort of the way we've sort of followed along, I guess.
Yeah, it's also easy to take photos of, and it doesn't take up much storage as well.
Easy to post. You just fold it up, chuck it in a bag.
One bag, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's always interesting hearing this also because I'm a reseller myself, but I've been doing some t-shirts and here and there, but I haven't found, like, I definitely don't love doing them. Every so often, I do get a batch of them and you're like, oh yeah, you want to smash them out because it's like bang, bang, bang. But then you never, I don't find them. And then it's like, okay, well, it doesn't. But then so for me, I'm doing a lot of books for those that don't realize. And that's because it's just come easier. I can find them a bit easier. And they've been selling easier for me. So it's kind of like, well, stick to what's working. But I'm kind of doing a bit of everything. So it's always curious. It's always interesting to hear, what sparks that, because but I must ask now that, during lockdown, because for those that don't realize that, well, actually we're all in lockdown, but you guys in Sydney have been in lockdown for a bit longer this year. How have you guys been going about sourcing and that kind of stuff? Because you've had to do a lot of wholesale, or have you, did you already have a fair bit of stock in play, or?
To be honest, we're taking things a lot slower than a lot of other people have. So we had come back from a week away.
Oh, that's right.
And then
luckily we
came back to a huge death pile that we sort of started working through. And then the week after we got back from holidays, we went into lockdown, and we've been in lockdown for, I want to say 11 weeks now. I can't remember. It's been a while. So the first 2 to 3 weeks was just pumping through all that initial amount of stock, because that's just all money waiting to be listed. If it's not listed, we're not going to get our investment back. And did a good week and a half of stock take, inventory management, updating the spreadsheet, getting things back to scratch, because we thought this was going to last a month. So we're like, we can ride this out for a month, get all the stock listed, get the store clean, everything's beautiful. And then since then, it just seems like there's a month added at the end of that run. So we're just slowly accumulating stuff to list. We don't want to deplete all our funds straight away. I mean, we're utilizing the profit first sort of book and mentality that you've recommended and you've read. Fantastic book for those who haven't read it. So we're just slowly just building up the OpEx fund without, depleting it too fast. So I've been trying to buy some wholesale clothing lots, which are quite expensive because you're paying up for the cost per item, and then supplementing that with just local DVD Facebook hauls where you're only paying 40, 50 cents each. So sort of balancing it out that way and just listing across 2 different stores. And then just sort of using that strategy, as well as thrifting and selling things from around the home. Sort of just using that to cruise through, because I feel like we're going to be out 4 to 5 weeks at this point. So that's sort of the strategy. We haven't gone guns a-blazing and buying wholesale lots every week. To be honest, a lot of the time I've spent learning and researching crypto and NFTs and other passive income streams while I've got the opportunity while I'm stuck at home the whole time. So sort of just playing it safe, but not starving at the same time.
No, he's been because I'm still going into my workplace
Yeah.
5 days a week. So I'm still very lucky about that. But Drew's been doing so well, like not only like keeping yourself motivated when there's no one else around, but yeah, just like using this time and just like learning all this new area. Like he's blown my mind. Like when I come home from work and he's just like, I've learned this and this and this today. And I'm just like, wait, slow down. Tell me again. Yeah. So
because he's been cooped up for too long.
Yeah. But just like the fact that you, even though, you've just been working this whole entire time anyway. I
feel like I haven't achieved much in the last 11 weeks, but
yeah, it's all up here.
It's all compounding stuff, right? Like finance and knowledge, it all compounds over time. And these last 11 weeks or whatever it has been have flown by, but I wouldn't have known any of the stuff that I know now if we were just thrifting. It's definitely given us a new perspective on the way to run the business. Like I probably won't have the same sourcing attitude coming out of lockdown as we used to have. I'm definitely going to play things by a whole different ball game. So yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, as much as it sucks being locked down and everyone's getting sick and everyone's in this state of uncertainty. It's trying to look at the positive. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's a great way to do it because it really changes your mental game as well. And I think it's important to do that because if anything, you said that, maybe it feels like a bit of a waste of time or you haven't necessarily come out or achieved much, but what this will enable is when an opportunity comes up, whether it's around, NFTs or how you're going to source or whatever, you don't have to then go learn for 6 weeks of how to execute. You can just jump on it, now this is good and bang, and you're 6 weeks ahead of everyone else kind of thing. And I think until that happens, that's hindsight. You don't realize that until it occurs. But then you can appreciate, oh no, this is good. I know this deal because I've done this research, and then you can jump in. Whereas other people are trying to, keep up with the hype and like, is this good? Is this good? And, everyone panics and they don't buy or they do buy and make a stupid decision. So I think, no, kudos to you, man. It's not easy. And it just, I think it reflects your whole, I guess, hustle mindset, which is, you mentioned about you've been looking into these different passive income streams or different ways of potentially making some money. So I want to dive into that. You guys aren't just doing the reselling, but you both you seem to have that hustle mindset, whether you know it or not. So I want to know, has there been other side hustles that you guys have done or tried, whether they're big or small? Like for me, my first one was selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was 12. I didn't realize it was a side hustle. I was just, flipping them from friends and making some quick pocket money. But have you done things in the past or?
I've done a couple of things, nothing too lucrative like the cards. The one thing I can remember, and we're having a quick discussion before we did the podcast with you.
I had no idea about this either.
I used to did you ever play guitar at all growing up?
No, I played the drums.
Okay. There's a program called Guitar Pro where it basically it just reads tablature for you. So you can download a song in tablature form and it just plays it at the beats per minute and you just play along with it. I used to make this is, 2001.
Early
polyphonic ringtone era. I used to make ringtones for people on that. So you could put your own tabs in and press play and record. And it's just a tiny little melody. So just like punk songs, like Blink-182 melodies and stuff like that. And just export them and then SMS the ringtone to some friends. Wow. I don't recall ever making any money from it. So probably lost it for a few friends, maybe. I don't know. But that's the only thing I can remember, making ringtones.
Yeah, so random, but so cool.
I was like, what? I would have not because like we're the same age, I would have not known or even think about that. Like I used to get the codes out of the magazines and pay like 60 cents.
You can pay $6 for Crazy Frog, or you can come to me and I'll make you a Blink-182 ringtone.
That's it, for free. With no cost. Some side look, but I think it's the thinking, like you having that idea and then being able to execute on it. Of course, as we get older, we realize, oh crap, we should have monetized it, and we would have been bowling, as a teenager or something. But even for me, I didn't realize what I was actually stumbling upon with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because I just knew I could make a quick buck, right? But there was probably ways that I could have done that a bit more as a bit more, not full time, but actually doubled down on it a bit more or scaled it, with a broader community or something. But when you're 12 and you're just getting a bit, you're getting $150 for selling 4 cards, it's kind of like, woo, and that's it. But, now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I think those are the little things that has enabled me to now, do other things that I'm executing or having that mindset, because that's how you've learned. That's how you've appreciated it. What about you, Sarah? Have you done any side hustles or dabbled on anything prior?
I was trying to think of it when I like earlier. The only thing I can think, like, we didn't have a lot of like money growing up, so like I used to help my mom like with birthday gifts for like our school friends and stuff, because you know when you're kids you have to always like, you know, give them a gift. That's what you do when you're a kid. So we used to make like jars of like colored sand and like food dye, like rice and like homemade what's it, not Pluto, what's it, is it Pluto?
Play-Doh,
that's the word.
Play-Doh.
Yeah, like, you know, used to make it like out of flour and all that kind of stuff. Used to give like them as gifts, like that kind of thing. And
colored
then,
rice to
people.
But I mean,
it was just like
but
the kids, like, because we're all kids, like you love it, you know, and like, and then like outside of those birthday ones, they're like, oh, can we have some extra? And we used to just make some extra and give them out as well.
Yeah, that in itself is a great little hustle, right? Because once again, it's thinking outside the box of how can we do this? We can't necessarily afford cash or whatever. So it's once again bringing that different perspective or approach, because plus it's sentimental, right? So it probably has a bit more of that emotional attachment, like, oh, you made this for me, right? And you know, it's probably going to speak more volumes than money. Maybe not for everyone, but if someone's like, just give me the cash, but that's always going to be okay. So it sounds like you both had different mindsets in different ways, which maybe at that age you hadn't realized how it would probably go down the track and influence you, right? You know, for you, Sarah, with maybe how you go about and do things practically, whether it's organizing things or layout things or just, you know, how things are presented, which probably, you know, goes back to those things that you made physically. And then for you, Drew, it's, I mean, you're always coming out with these random ideas, right? So I think that, you know, and it's fine, because it doesn't mean that the ideas have to stick, because I feel like you've probably had a lot more ideas than actual things you've executed on, which I think a lot of us do. But if people don't even explore that, you're not even able to explore that, you know, that part of your brain to say, oh, no, it wouldn't work, or, you know, just to have some fun in thinking about it. Because, you know, you have that moment where I think you could probably to relate to this, Drew, where you thought about something, it's like, oh, this could be really big, you could make all this money, and then all of a sudden you're planning out your next 20 years, and then you realize one thing is like, oh no, but you have to, it's illegal in Australia, like, scrap it, it's not worth it, like, you know, it's like it shuts it down. But like there was that 30 seconds of like, oh, your whole life has flashed before your eyes.
Like that's a constant thing all the time. And like you can attest to this. Like this is something that I try to get you to think more about, just so we have two worlds coming together, bringing two lots of ideas. We literally had a dog walk the other night for an hour, and we're just discussing business ideas for, can we sell hampers at Christmas? Can we just put a two or $3 grand in and make a shitload of hampers and just flip them for Christmas and then get 3 or 4x back? Like we planned out the whole business thing in one walk, and then realized, no, it's not worth it. No,
especially because like we'd want to make plant-based or like vegan ones, and like them per item wouldn't match up to like the juicy price of someone wanting to buy like a whole hamper.
But it's like the just the thought process of running through every little detail. And it's just the practice of that. Like you said, not every idea is going to stick. One in every 100 would be awesome. But yeah, it's just that practice. So we do it again with a different business idea or a different thing. It's just always keeping your mind active. Like I've got a very critical thinking brain after studying science for 6 years. So I'm always thinking about the what ifs for everything, and then trying to find an answer for it. So yeah, definitely resonate with that for sure. Always trying to explore other like boundaries we haven't explored before.
That's good, because we can just bounce off each other, and like I'll ask more questions, and I'll be like, oh, why do you think this will work? And Drew will ask the same of me and be like, you know, think more about that. Do you think that's really practical? It's good. We have the two brains.
Good to be able to bounce from each other. So I have a random question for you then. And you kind of just alluded to it, but like, so if reselling was banned, like all of a sudden they just said no more reselling, eBay shut down, boom, 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 what would be the first thing you would try next?
I feel like we'd probably, mainly because it's more of a comfort thing, like probably something food related, or like
depends if that question is like what we would do knowing what we know now, or like 2 or 3 years ago, right? Like, I've learned so many new things in the last 2 months that I could try instead of reselling, as opposed to 2 or 3 years ago where the only thing I could think of was reselling, and then everything else was like so far beyond approach.
It would have to be now. Probably, it would have to be now.
I'd say probably, probably making some sort of food item or something, like making the product ourselves, or sourcing it and then assembling it ourselves and then selling it, I guess.
But like, if reselling was banned, like right now, I could see you like going into like not Airtasker, but like, you know, starting editing like other people's things.
Like Upwork type
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, probably that.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
like services.
Yeah.
It's always an interesting thing to think about because a lot of the time we don't think about it until we're forced to think about it, right? Like all
Yeah.
of us people are laid off, and in the last it's been horrible last 2 years for a lot of people, but for some people they've been laid off, so they started doing something. They started skipping every day, and now they've hit it big time on TikTok, or someone started playing Minecraft full time, and now they've got 500,000 subscribers, or just all these random things because they're like, well, I don't have a job anymore, so I'm going to go try this. Or someone started their own little bakery business, or whatever it is. And I think sometimes those pivotal things, like a loss of job or something, forces us to make that drastic change. And unfortunately, that's usually the case unless because no one has the motivation to go, I'll go dabble in this, I'll go dabble in that. But it's sometimes always nice to just have little ideas in the back. And I think that's a really safe thing to do, Drew, is just, I know you've been exploring a lot of different things and learning, especially a lot of the new tech and NFTs and all that jazz, because they're all things that are going to continue to evolve and change. And not keeping up with those things or potential alternative, things that you could do as side hustles and gigs. I think it's a dangerous game, not exploring it or having it in the back of your mind in some sense, because the world will continue to rapidly change. So it's a weird thing to be thinking about, but at the same time, you don't want to get too forced into it because then you lose focus of the actual thing you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's it. It's just staying fresh. Like I love reading news and staying up to date with what's going on in the world. And just by virtue of that, you find business opportunities or other avenues you can pursue. Like it's I just love learning things. Like I'll immerse myself in a whole area for 2 months straight and then come out and then not want to touch or learn about it again. And then it's the same as before. It's just a compounding knowledge that you can pull from and pull the resource from further down the track. But
yeah, you're very curious and always wanting just to seek something new, because not that you get bored quickly, but because your brain moves so fast. Like you're like,
do I have ADHD? I probably do.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're just very, very productive. But yeah, you'll learn, like you'll just get super interested and then do a deep dive. And then once you've learned that, you'll move on to the next thing. And it's just like this never ending learning cycle that you have.
But yeah, now I'm worried about, is reselling going to end? I should probably think of other options.
Yes, because it's like we almost like thought to be like, how are we going to source stock and stuff? You did have that moment of just be like, can I resell at all during this time? Yeah. So I think you were like working on contingency plans already.
Always working on contingency plans. Definitely underrated.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's a safe mindset to have. And now the next segment that I wanted to jump in for you guys is rapid fire questions to get to know you a bit more, some random things. Try and keep it short and sharp, but if you do have points of value or you think it's worth diving into, we can do that as well. Cool. But obviously it's going to be a bit of back and forth. You'll both get a chance to answer each because you probably have different answers anyway. So the first one being, what is a favorite book that you have read?
Let's go you, me, and then back, and then back.
We'll probably forget at some point,
okay,
but we'll give it a shot. Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss.
Okay.
Mine would have to be Rich Dad Poor Dad. Read it last year, and it's just definitely opened up our eyes into just everything, the future. Rich Dad Poor Dad.
That's a good book. Okay. You win $10,000, no strings attached. You win $10,000. Well, in this case, it would just be to one of you, but in this case, answer is if it was just you. What would you do with it?
Invest.
Oh,
no, your turn.
Invest.
Yeah.
Invest?
We're both like, as soon as
probably 90-10 split, I think. Yeah. Invest and then splurge.
Yeah, 10 fun money and then 90.
10 fun money?
No, 10% fun money and then 90% splurge.
Fund or fun?
Fun. Like fun money.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Splurge it all.
Okay. Anywhere that you would invest, like high level?
We'll go into the proper ones, right?
Yeah, I'd probably just go into like Vanguard or something. Just
the proper ones. You mean the
non-cryptos,
the safer ones?
Probably just like a Vanguard ETF that has like just a nice little dividend kicking on.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. No, always curious to hear that. Okay. Favorite food?
This is always a tough one. I want to pizza.
It's burritos, anything Mexican, anything with beans, rice, and avocado.
Oh, nice. I'm having pizza tonight, actually.
Yum. Do love a good pizza.
Yeah. Favorite place to travel?
Haven't traveled too extensively, but Vietnam, we actually got a Nordic track elliptical, and you can like hike Vietnam. Like I literally hiked the same steps this morning that we did in Vietnam 3 years ago, and it was crazy. So
awesome.
for me, Vietnam, yeah.
Well, I haven't traveled many places either, but yeah, Vietnam was just so beautiful, and the food was amazing, so good. But like I'm a sucker for a good beach. Like, yeah.
So Vietnam, but not too many other options to choose from.
Yeah. Okay, so let me niche it down. So in Australia, if you could go to one place this weekend or for a week, where would you go?
Right now, probably just Blue Mountains or something real quick for a weekend. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's just like it's like the suburb before Byron Bay. It's like this really nice camping ground there. It's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, keeping it simple.
Bush beach.
Yeah.
And I lived on the beach and used to live in the bush. So it's
exactly. We realize that's
sense,
where we like to travel is because you've had beach always,
Yeah.
and I've always grew up in like the country and stuff. So
that's great. Yeah, that's wide.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense because you've always done it, so you want something fresh. Yeah. Okay. All right. This is a good one. If you could have coffee with any historical figure or any person of inspiration, or anyone for that matter, in the past of history or right now, who would you choose and why?
Coffee.
this is like always such a tough one because I don't know.
Because do you want to have a coffee and like actually be able to discuss proper topics, or is this person going to be way too elite and intelligent to like communicate with?
I know.
Or you just want to be on the fly on the wall?
I don't know. Like, because if I get like a historical person, I would feel like such a dum-dum, like speaking to them.
I would say for me, Nipsey Hussle, the rapper, I've just finished his a book written after his death. Definitely a rapper that's inspired me in this whole hustle journey as well. Like, it's someone that I listened to whilst I was studying nutrition. So that's probably another reason that cemented the whole sort of hustle. Don't worry about having a middleman, just do everything DIY on your own sort of style. And I just finished his book written about his life is amazing. So yeah, Nipsey Hussle, but I don't know. I'd probably be too terrified to actually converse with him, but yeah, Nipsey Hussle.
Okay.
This is going to sound like left field, but it's probably like my great grandmother, because I never got to meet her. And I don't know, I love history and stuff. And I just love to like hear from like a woman's perspective, what it was like to live at that time, and just like sort of their experiences and what they were going through. And because it's just like would be just so different. Like if 30-year-old me spoke to like 30-year-old her, like it'd be crazy, just like different perspectives, but like still related in some way.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you said great. So that's probably what, like 1920s or even earlier than that.
Just like to see sort of like where the family tree, like how it's gone to, but just like just meeting someone from like that time and just like what they were going through, because it was so different for women and stuff back then. So
your mind would be blown the whole conversation.
And it's actually quite interesting you bring that up, because it's kind of like we're at that point where, because history is, technology, everything's changed so rapidly in just in the last 10 years, right? 20 years, right? We think back to the early 90s when we were pipsqueaks. And that's when everything was kind of just taking off, right? So to go back, 20 years from that, then 20 years again, then 20, like a lot of that appreciation is starting to disappear, because the older generation is a younger generation in terms of, they're younger of when the technology took off, which means there's going to be this disassociation.
Yes,
that's the word. Of that pastime or that history, and because it will be forgotten. Like there'll be no one around that can bring that to life anymore. So it's actually kind of on its last leg. I think a lot of people will realize, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be trying to find how can we get more things back from the past to help people realize how far we've come from. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think we talked about this in like our previous podcast episode, like how quick, even in just like the last 10 years, things have evolved. And like it's so true. Like soon we'll have a generation that doesn't know what it was like without a computer, doesn't know what it was like without
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace. Like I know. And then it's just like all these experiences, are just going to be lost. But was it, does technology make it easier? Does it make it harder? Does it make it more stressful? Or was it, 10 times worse back then? And like, we don't know how we have it now. Like just that would be such a contrast.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. And the final question for both of you is most random thing you can share about yourself.
Most random thing we can share. You should share about each other. I don't really know anything too random about you.
I don't know. Like we try to.
Well, you can
I've
share
never-
about. You can either do yourself, or
I'll
if
do
you
myself.
want, you can do it. Yeah, do yourself, so you don't say something you shouldn't say.
I moved to Helsinki with an ex-girlfriend. That didn't last very long. Like packed my bags, moved
Wow.
to Finland. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty random. No,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah,
not many
very
people have
random.
done that before.
Yeah. I don't know. Do people know I used to dance? But like I used to do tap, jazz, ballet, modern,
Wow.
sing, duo, like troupe, solo. Like I did the whole shebang. Like I had a
7-day-a-week dancing roster.
like it was literally 6 days a week. I think I stopped in about year 8 just because like, starting high school,
Yeah.
like it was just too much. But yeah, like I did like many years of dancing, group and all that kind of stuff. And then my mum used to make all my costumes.
What's
and
your favorite
everything.
dance style?
My favorite, okay, the most fun was always tap dance.
Yeah.
Like I loved tap dancing.
Yeah.
The most like hardest and like the most like once you like nailed a move and
Yeah.
it was like the most enjoyable was like point ballet. Like it's so hard.
Point is that you just point your toes.
No. It's like it's
Oh.
where you're actually up on the point.
you're
so
on a point. That
sorry,
makes
we're on a video
sense.
version as well.
Yeah.
So it's when you're up on the point of your toes, you're actually literally up on the point of your
Yeah.
toes on like a block
Wow.
of wood. But like when you can like pirouette or spin without like falling, it's such like a good feeling.
Wow.
Like because it's so hard to like keep yourself like posture and everything. Like I wouldn't be able to do it now.
Oh,
Um
that was my next question.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, like, if reselling gets cancelled, then we know where you can pick up and start monetizing it. I mean, TikTok's
I'll
all
be
about
over on
dancing.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
that's where I'll be.
I got the phone. I can film it. You just got to do
Yeah.
the
I could do the
content.
dance. Like
yeah.
I don't mind making a fool of myself. Like I'm more than happy to like try and
There
do
we
we
go.
have
this.
2 channels. We have 2 channels to do that already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Look,
we
my
can do
mum
it.
dancing coming soon.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Look, Mama's TikTok.
Well, guys, it's been so good, and I appreciate you answering those questions and a bit of fun. But I think what I've loved so much about this conversation is it's just a conversation. It's just hanging out, learning about you guys, and I hope the audience has learned a lot from you guys. And if anything, been inspired, because I'm always inspired when I listen to your podcast. I feel like I'm in the room with you guys, just listening and just hanging out. It's kind of weird, even though I'm listening to it when I'm running, I can picture the video version, just because you have those good vibes. So I just wanted to give you guys a chance. If there was one thing that you would leave with the listeners, whether it's from this podcast or just in general, what would that be?
Stay curious.
Mhm.
Stay curious and don't be afraid to chase your curiosity. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I'd say just keep moving forward. Like you're going to make a lot of mistakes and you're going to have several step backwards, but just make sure you keep like the end in sight, know where you're going, and just keep moving forward. It's okay to have a bad day. Like it's okay to even have a bad week, but just remember, just keep moving forward and get into where you want to go.
Brilliant. Such good advice. Where's the best place for people to follow along? Like, I know you're across so many different places, but all of this will be in the show notes anyway. But if people wanted to jump in, where would be the first place you want people to go?
Hit us up on Instagram. It's Drew and Sarah as one word. From pretty much there, you can filter out to everything else. Just search It's Drew and Sarah in Google search and you'll find us.
Yeah, you'll find the Look More Hustling podcast. You'll find the YouTube channels. You'll find our final season vintage
You'll
stuff.
find Sarah's future dancing videos.
Yes, yeah.
Heard it here first, guys. That's awesome. No, I really appreciate you guys jumping on and taking the time. It's it's been an awesome episode, and appreciate those listening as well, and hope you've all learned something.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us. It was a great chat.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Too easy.
You.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Well, there you go, guys. What an awesome episode, and how cool is Drew and Sarah? I just love them so much. I know I've said that a lot, but they really do bring such an environment where you just feel that you're sitting down on the couch having a great conversation. What I love about them so much is that they work together in all that they're doing, and they're moving forwards, and they're chasing something. Now, sometimes that chase is evolving, is changing, but it's very evident in all that they're doing. Now, I don't want to oversell it, so make sure you go jump over to their socials, go jump over to their YouTube, go jump over to their podcast and see what they're all about, see what they're creating, because I don't think you will regret it. Really do appreciate being here. It's been an absolute honor to be able to bridge this conversation between you guys and Drew and Sarah. And my name's Chris Furrii. I'm your host, and you have a wonderful day. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.